Alright, so US Open. So it's still very fresh in my memory. This is the last tournament I bowled. So it's been a long evening already, getting to this point for me. So I actually had a few weeks off after this event. Just kind of way the schedule works and trying to plan for 2019, how big the schedule is going to be when I fly right on the very 1st of January. So taking a little bit of time off, but obviously I'm bowling so well, it's kind of hard to do that. But you kind of got to make sure that for next year you got to be ready. So the first thing I did before I went to practice was I watched this show, trying to get back. Pardon me. So trying to get back the feelings of not so much the emotions, but the touch I was trying to use on this show, the feel I had, footwork, and really tap into sort of that memory bank that we have, all the positivity and all the good things that happened, and trying to use that even before I went and practiced. So I have watched this once before, and watched the whole show. My very first game was against Marshall Kent, and we bowled on, I think this pattern was 43 foot, and it had a lot of volume. I think it was over 30 mil, pattern that the USBC wanted us to try and play a few different angles, but it was quite hard to hook it on this pattern, even when it broke down. And we bowled fresh every block this year. That hasn't happened in a couple of years now. So every time we bowled, we were bowling on fresh oil, and there was a lot of it. So I started off right around 5, going up 5 against Marshall Kent, and it wasn't really going to be something that I was going to be trying to do. I was probably going to bowl more like 8, 9, 10. But we went over and practiced on this pair, and this pair hooked quite a lot. Actually, we actually used this pair as well. We used this pair in the round robin. This is on 13 and 14. So we had a good idea about what this pair done. We would have bowled, most people would have bowled 2 games on this pair in the round robin at least, and we used it in qualifying and had a sort of an idea. So we had a good idea about the pair. And we come over and there was a day for the guys to get this whole TV show set up on the TV pair. So they had the day, and they kind of had a bit of dust and people walking on the lane and everything. So we go over and we start practicing on it a few hours before, and it hooked a little bit more. So it kind of didn't throw us, but it was definitely a little bit different. So then obviously when we come back in the evening, the first thing you're thinking of, okay, what's it going to do now? And sure enough, it was tighter. So ball reps and I were kind of ready for that. We drew the ball, which was a matrix solid. I had a little bit stronger, and I hadn't played 5 board all week. I saw other guys were doing it very successfully, so there was no reason for me not to sort of try it. And I didn't feel like, not that you don't feel like you have anything to lose, but 10 frames. I was going to say it's a lot of frames, but sometimes it doesn't feel like it. But I think in this environment, on a tough pattern like this, it is a lot of frames. And we came over, and this was the ball I was going to use the first game. That was going to be probably a little bit further right than where I am here, but not far. And that was kind of the game plan. And then that ball got so long on the fresh that we had the matrix solid ready, and then I bowled a really good game against Marshall. And then EJ came over and bowled EJ the next game, and he gets a few practice shots, and they changed a little bit, and the left lane started to have this hook spot. If I move left, it wasn't really a hook spot in the front, it was more the middle part of the lane. There's Jakob. I think that was the one where he pinged out to the gutter, and the crowd went, ooh. I thought it was going to fall in, but it was doing that all week for him. He was bowling so well. So this is the reaction. I think Jakob was trying to play a little bit more than he actually did that game. I think he was getting it a little bit further in the oil for him. He wasn't getting it all the way there. I wasn't sure if maybe he didn't feel too comfortable, and the stuff that happened to him the year before when he lost to Rhino after leading for so much maybe threw him a little bit as well. But he had plenty of practice shots. He had 8 shots before the match against me. He had 4 shots before the semi-final, and then we had the 10 minutes practice we were allowed before we even get to come over, before the first match starts. So the progression that I found with this, so I started off with a matrix solid, a little bit stronger drilled with a lot of surface on it, up 5, and I did that against EJ as well. Did that against Marshall successfully, did it against EJ and had 258 against Marshall, and then I needed to, I think it was get all three in the tent to force EJ to get all 3, and I got the first 2, and then I got left the 36910 on the left lane. So EJ got up and he left the 10 pin. So I got to advance in that match. And then, because of this hook spot on the left lane, I wasn't too comfortable that I was going to be able to bowl another good game out there. So that's kind of when the ball changes happened and me moving my feet. But because there's so much volume in this middle part of the lane, then we broke them down so well. It was hard to get my ball not to go too long. So against Chris Prather, he was trying to play not far from where I was playing already, and I kind of jumped over him a little bit, and he was using a ball that wasn't quite as strong as one I was using, but it's fairly quick down lane. So I jumped past him a little bit and trying to find the right ball, and that was the hardest thing. You know, he had practice on that pair. I've bowled a couple of games, but I'm changing zones, well, a couple of zones I move left, so trying to find a way for my ball not to go long, go through the pins the right way. And if I remember, I left 36910 against Prather a couple of times on the left lane. I think I missed one and made one. Might be in this game that happened. You'll see in a second. But yeah, so I jump over, and then it's just really about finding the ball that didn't go too long, that went through the pins the right way. So this ball I went to against Chris, and then I kind of had to wait for Jakob to have his shots. And then I'm slowly inching my way left. I'm going board, a couple of boards at a time. You can see that one hit the lane, what I was talking about on that left lane, the middle part of the lane. It didn't push quite as much as it does on the right lane. And it really jumped up and left me the 36910. I didn't quite get it as far right as you can see, and I think I was shutting it down a little bit too much. I did need to let that ball go a little bit more, get it a little bit further to the right. There was a lot of hook out there. I think that us guys created and had to, we played hold all week, so I did need to try and use a bit more friction than I did. Now this came down a little bit off spot as well, and the 9 pin's a little bit to the left, so I decided to throw my plastic and unfortunately didn't make it, but didn't feel too comfortable trying to hook it at that one. So we had the early double, 9 pin, and then the 36910 that wrapped. A little bit disappointed on that spare, but still in good shape with the match. Even if Jakob does double here, I'm still within touching distance, but knowing Jakob, he can easily strike out from here too. But you can see that one, he didn't quite get it all the way there, as opposed to the one that did strike in the 3rd frame. Yeah, still outside first arrow, but it wasn't all the way to the friction he was using. And his ball just gets a little bit behind the head pin.
Trying to become the first bowler since Pete Weber. There's a straight spare shot. Takes care of the
At this point, you're kind of just waiting for your shot again, I think. And usually when we have title matches, we don't have commercial breaks. So you'll see me in a minute stand up and get told to sit down. I get to go and bowl and like, nope, not yet.
I remember that tournament in '87.
Woody Austin in the background with his Titleist hat. It's my lucky charm. Every show he sat on, I've won. He needs to come back. I wonder if it's the same if I go and watch him if he play when he's playing a golf tournament. If that would be the same. Return the favour.
And getting some help from his opposition.
All right, so I stand up now. Get ready to go and take my shot. Dave Schroeder screams at me. It wasn't actually Dave Schroeder. It was Jason Thomas. Thinking about it, you go straight away to sort of the PBA TV shows that we have, and Schroeder usually does it for PBA. But yeah, Jason Thomas says, "What are you doing, idiot? Sit down." Okay, I'll sit back down. Let me know when I can bowl. And there's Elvis. It was Halloween. So didn't have anyone coming around trick or treating, or throwing eggs. Luckily.
I guarantee you, I didn't carve any of those jack-o'-lanterns.
Those were done by experts. That was
So a couple of years before, 3 years before, I think it was 2015, I bowled Simonelli in the title match, and I ran that ladder, and a couple of 9-pins stopped me from winning, and Simonelli bowled great too. He deserved to, and he led like Jakob did this year. So after this, another 9-pin. Like, I'm not doing this again. I've left 9 pins to lose this tournament already. This is a pretty good one. I got it to not go too long. I used the friction to the right, and it came up a little bit too hard, and it wasn't really rolling forward the way I wanted it to. So I think it was bleeding out. It's so hard to see this sometimes. It was bleeding out a little bit on the way there, and I think that's what made it get behind the head pin, but with too much angle. So this is me kind of trying another ball, going back to the one that went too long in the game against Prather. But really, you know, I'm not one for going down wondering. So that's really where this ball change came from. The 9-pin. The 9-pin isn't really an unlucky leave in our sport, especially at our level. So this is a ball that we just drilled as well, just for the TV show. I drilled 3. I drilled the Matrix Solid, the Diesel Torque you just saw. And then we drilled this one, and I had 3 other webs to go with this one, but this one was drilled a little stronger, a little bit more rounded. So very tentative shot there. Did not get it to the right at all on that lane, and I've already left the 36910 the last time, so pretty poor effort on that one. I think after playing a little bit straighter, I wasn't getting myself quite open enough. I was a little bit shut down and didn't quite get my angles right on that lane. You can see how much that ball picks up and hooks. So again, I just chopped this spare with my spare ball, so I wasn't doing that again. So I'll try and hook it. Made sure I got it to the right, and it just covers the back pin. So at this point, you know, it's not going the way I want it to really. Even, you know, not really worrying about Jakob's score. If you're not bowling good enough, you're not bowling good enough. Even though I've had, you know, 3 games on this lane, changing zones and trying to figure out what I'm supposed to do. Kind of sit down, you take that deep breath, and at least go down with good shots. I think that's what I'm saying to myself. Not so much go down, but you're not trying to be in a negative way where you think you're going to lose. But you know, the least I should be doing is bowling good shots right now. So I think that's what I kind of started to focus on. Just making quality shots again. And looking back now, you can see Jakob really not getting it quite out to the part of the lane he needs to. But this was a very long week. I think we bowled 5 or 6 days in a row already. We bowled 56 games, plus the practice we have on the range, plus all of the preparation that we had for this event, because it's our last major of the year. And it all comes down to these last 3 frames. And see, Jakob, I think, has a hard time with the memory from last year. He's trying to think about his redemption that he almost led. If he led by more this year in 2018 or not, or break the record, but it was ridiculous how well he was bowling and how well he has been bowling for the last couple of years. It's fantastic. He got his mum to come over. I think she hadn't watched him bowl for quite a long time. Yeah, she's very proud. Lovely young man, Jakob. Really nice guy. Lives in his own sort of little bubble sometimes, but kind of jealous about that, if I'm honest, because just no worries about anything, and very nice young guy. So here we go then. So the least I've got to do is make good shots. That's what I'm saying to myself right now. I'm committed to the ball change. We know what we're doing. Just need to go and bowl good. So we like that one. That one didn't bleed out quite as much. And this is a 2-hour show, plus the practice we had before. The lights weren't quite as bright and as warm as other shows. I think they might have used different LEDs, I'm not quite sure, but it was definitely a little bit different. But they still always break down different on the TV pair than they do throughout the week, or you know, when we're bowling regularly or any other tournament, they always break down different on the TV pair.
Rocket scientists to figure out what ball to use at what time.
So I'll probably move a couple of balls left, but I'm telling myself just to let it go, really. Let it go,
Barrett gets
feed it out there.
20, Butturff for 227. This is for a double.
There we go, we did it.
There's a 3-pin lead.
7 pins down, 2 good shots, sit down and see what happens. And that's kind of that. It's hard to say in sport about the word relief because it isn't really the right word, but that's kind of what that is. You kind of that deep breath, that relief. You kind of threw 2 good shots. You go, okay, finally, we threw the 2 that we needed to. Sit down now, take a minute, see what Jakob's going to do. That's a good shot from Jakob. You see he gets it all the way there.
It's just a matter of trusting what you have. And when it comes down to crunch time, that's not a very easy thing to do. How far that ball went down the lane before it started hooking.
And he strikes a lot. A lot of the time. So yeah, so you just sit down and wait now. There's nothing I can do about what he does. He can strike out to win. So already in this this finals, I bowled really well against Marshall, and that one wasn't a close game. I struck out in the 10th against EJ to force him to strike out, which he left the 10 pin. And then I struck in the 10th frame. I doubled in the 10th frame against Prather. So far the night's gone very well. I've been stepping up when I needed to. And then this one gets a little bit behind the head pin for Jakob. I don't know if it was quite burning up or what it was, but see the 710 there. You can't get excited too much. I don't know what my heart rate would have been when you see the 710 and then the 10 pin fall or 7 pin falls. And either way, you know, you can't control what anyone else does. All you ever want is a chance. So now I know I need the first one in the 10th and good count. And then you kind of sit there and that's about it. So I had Frankie Lavoie over on Jakob's left-hand side there, the right-hand side of the screen. You see him in the picture. And halfway through the game against Prather, I was losing by quite a few pins, maybe 30 pins. I wasn't getting any hits. I wasn't really sure what I was doing. I was changing zones, and it wasn't going too well. Sat next to Wesley Lowe there with Jakob's mum. In front of there is a ball return. And that was kind of my keep loose lane when they were practicing and we had the commercial breaks in between the matches. And I had my balls on that rack. The only time I had my balls on that rack was when I was losing 30 to Prather. So in that commercial break, I can't put my balls here anymore. You guys must sting and be bad luck or something. So I went over there, picked up my balls, put it back onto the ball return to the right-hand side of the set. My right-hand side, as you look at me now, so where the production guys are, Jason Thomas is. And then Jakob put his balls on that rack. So I think that rack on 11-12 is definitely, that ball return is definitely bad luck. And I'm not a superstitious sort of person at all, but, you know, sportsman at the end of the day, so whatever works. So all I'm saying to myself now is just make a good shot. And that was pretty good. So you sit down there, made good shots all night. Just go and make another good shot. And I was trying to make sure my feet didn't get quick early. I've been trying to do that for the last sort of month or so, and I think it's important that you can kind of key into 1 or 2 things physically. Nothing too much, but enough that settles you when you do it, so then you can just commit to throwing a good shot, and that's really what I was doing there. And that helps me a lot sometimes when I need to bowl well and stay within rhythm. And then that was my key in this one. So same again. I'm not sure if I moved or not. I may have moved half or 1, just as a little comfort thing because no one's been there and I need 9 now. So I thought this one was pretty good and make sure I got slow feet to start. And then, yeah, it wasn't as good as what I thought it was. And then the 4-6. So this is a tough part, I think. This was kind of everything hits you at once. But I've made, with that spare ball, I made lots of splits this week. I haven't missed any spares. So I didn't feel too uncomfortable. But probably should have taken 1 more breath, I think. But we go up there. So just hit the 6 pin. Just about hit it. It might be the finest 6-pin I've ever hit, but that's why you never resurface your spare balls. You want them to be as wide as possible. And yeah, I've won a few tournaments around the world and on the PBA, and you kind of get home and you go, wow, how did I win that one? But this one, running that ladder, the way that I did it, not even so much thinking about that 6-pin, but what I went through that week, and never really felt like I was bowling that well, but I was never out of it either. I was always around fourth or fifth position. So it was amazing just to not feel like I bowled fantastically well, but definitely well enough. And then to, stand there holding that trophy, no idea how we managed to pull that one off. That's pretty much what I've been saying since I won. So, congratulations on US Open. So, yeah, no idea how we managed that one. But, yeah, that trophy's home now. Sat very proudly as you walk into my house. The little boy will be looking at that at home as well. And, yeah, one that goes into kind of my bowling career history, and when I get to the end of my career, something I'll look back on very proudly.